meeting, and I want to share the legal notice first. As information for our audience, if you're not satisfied with the decision made by the Metro Board of Fair Commissioners today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of entry of the board's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact your own independent legal counsel. So the meeting is now called to order, and I will ask for an approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Those minutes have been shared with you previously.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes as received.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes pass. We'll move now into public comment time. Please note that we limit our time to 2 minutes per person. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? Go ahead and come on up. Laura's going to help you with the microphone. Okay, your mic is live.
Hi,
Hi, if you would share your name and your address, and we'd love to hear from you.
I'm Joy Andall. I live up on Nolensville. I would prefer not to give my street number.
That's fine.
So just a couple blocks up. I
Okay.
just have encountered, as a person with accessibility needs in a wheelchair, I've encountered some things over the last month that maybe if you haven't been out in my situation, you might not have recognized. And when I get off at the bus stop, there's not a white crosswalk painted to go across, but there is an old yellow tape painted, for pedestrian to come up, which is great. I would like to see a few more white crosswalks painted, like at the top of the ramp and at the bottom of the ramp, crossing the two vehicular paths. And then when you get to the top of the ramp to come into these expo buildings or to go to the sheds, there's not a ramp right there. You have to get into the vehicular path on the road to go up to the expo. There are crosswalks up there at the sheds, but it would be nice if there would be some kind of sign or pathway where pedestrians and wheelchairs should go, because there is only at the back, the loading zone, there is no, I have to go in the vehicular path. That's pretty dangerous. It's would be an insurance concern. So also be preparing for the wonderful stadium that we have into and through the park. If I get off at the 52 bus stop, where do I go from there to get to the stadium? I know it's the road over here, the extension is still being under construction, but into and through, is there a way from the bus stop that is accessible to get there, or will there be any kind of shuttles there for people that could load up? Just ideas, thinking about, because when I come to the flea market or stuff like that, just concerns about cars noticing, and more crosswalks and signs on the sidewalk. People don't think about, they're putting a sign, don't park or go here or do not enter. But when they turn it sideways, it blocks 2/3 of the sidewalk. And I have to have a certain amount of inches to get by, and you can't get by. And so just keeping the sidewalks clean of debris and signs, those kinds of things, they're not all the time, they're just once in a while. And just maybe if you had somebody that actually would go with you all the different steps around, you could see where you might have some things you want to do differently. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Okay, seeing no more public comments, we will move to monthly reports, and I'll call on Satrice for the financial report.
Good morning, everyone. The financial information presented today is preliminary, and our revenue and expenses for April 2022 may not have been recorded to the ledgers as of May 9th, 2022, when this report was created. The preliminary actuals through April 2022 are as follows. Revenue is approximately $2,123,600. Expenditures are around $2,022,300, resulting in a net gain of approximately $101,300. Depreciation expense is $1,040,300, so the total net loss is roughly $938,989. Below you will find an itemized list of our revenues and expenses. Our top three revenue sources are flea market booth rent, expo building rentals, and other. Flea market booth rent is around $310,818, which represents 15% of our total revenue. Expo building rentals is roughly $357,600, which is 17%. Other, which consists of the CDBG grant, rent or mixed use, advertising, sponsorship, fees and interest, is $893,300, which represents 42% of our total revenue. Our top three expenses are payroll, utilities, and insurance/low cap. Payroll expense is approximately $950,600, which represents 47% of our total expenses. Utilities expense is $369,125, which represents 18%. Insurance, permits, low cap expense is $343,645, which represents 17% of our total expenses. For the month of May 2022, our revenue projection is approximately $110,800. We anticipate 41% collection of revenue from the flea market, 21% from parking, and 11% from expo building rentals. This concludes our financial report. Are there any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Satrice? Seeing none, we're going to move on to events update, and I'll call on Director Womack.
Very good, thank you. We have a special guest this morning. I've asked Mr. Jones if he would take some time and update you on our fair planning. We are about 90 days out, so we've got a lot of work, and he has done a tremendous amount of work in planning, and so I thought it would be fun to share with you what we've done so far and what's to come.
Well, good morning. It's always a pleasure to be here and speak to you. And today, our fair, the Nashville Fair, will start September 9th through the 18th. We've got a lot of great things planned for the fair this year. And of course, our mascot ultimately for the fair is going to be a chicken. It's to tie in Nashville hot chicken and backyard chicken. That is something that represents Nashville. And we think that would be very fitting for that. The good thing about the fair with the new property that we have here right outside this door, we have an opportunity there with a courtyard to be able to have an enclave during the fair that will give us a different feel than the traditional fair, a sense of community and different programming. Some of the things we're planning on Monday through Thursday, we're going to have 4 nights. It'll be like festivals in the fair ultimately. The first Monday is going to be All You Need Is Wine Fest. So to be tied into the Beatles, basically, we'll have a Beatles tribute band, and we'll have different local wineries there having tastings. Then on Tuesday, we'll have a Tacos, Bubbles, and Brew Fest with local breweries having different booths around. And then, of course, on Wednesday, Howlin' at the Moon. Of course, that's Moonshine, Barbecue, and Blues Fest. And then this will be a signature event, which will tie, the Thursday night will be our signature event, which will tie what Nashville is, Nashville hot chicken, right? The fair is all about food. So we're going to take the Nashville hot chicken and tie it into hot chicken on a stick festival. So it will basically be tying a fair and food with something that's iconic with Nashville with hot chicken. And then, of course, on the weekends, ultimately, we've partnered with the Festival of Nations, which will be Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, which will offer a wide variety of diverse entertainment from our local community and the arts here. So that, I think that'll be a very plus for the courtyard. Also in building 3 over here, I get the numbers mixed up sometime. We are in the process of getting a divider curtain to be able to section that building off, which will ultimately be used throughout the years for different rental purposes. It seems with Director Laura Womack in conversations that TV tapings, wrestling, and other sporting events in that building seem to be something that's in our future. This curtain will go from the roof to the floor, so we'll be able to black out a portion of the building to ultimately be able to have better tapings or have a better entertainment experience. But in that area, we will have 10 days of like ticketed events. We'll have everything from we're going to have some dinner shows, something like a dinner detective dinner show. We'll have a mysteries and magic dinner show. We'll have a comedy dinner show, and then we'll have sporting events ranging from wrestling to an MMA to working on with a local radio station for a lucha libre wrestling on the last Sunday of the fair. Currently, we're working with Metro Legal to finish up some contracts. One is with the carnival, so I expect within probably a week to 2 weeks, we'll have that contract finalized. We're working with some of our providers that provide services for the fair, which range from entertainment to our marketing for the fair. Those contracts should be finalized so we can start moving forward with some of these. I know with Metro and procurement and different things just take a little bit more time, but most of our, pretty much all of our vendors are understanding to that, and we're just moving forward. We're definitely excited with the fair. There's plenty more events, of course, livestock and our ag events and our creative arts that we will have at the fair. But ultimately, as the fair, what we want to communicate with folks is that it's going to be evolving over the years. You know, what we have right now is not the finished product. Our footprint's changing, everything here on the ground. So we definitely, our theme this year, we're going to tie in the word hatching. Because it's going to be something new and different, and each year this chick will grow. So we're definitely we're trying to tie in the word hatching. We still got some more tweaking to do with that. Maybe a hatching a good time or hatching a fun time, but we are definitely hatching something here. So we're excited. So, any questions?
I had a quick question, Madam Chair, if I may. Do you have like any drawings of what this fair is going to look like on the property, like how, so that we can like conceptualize like what it's going to look like with the parking situation, with and like where the rides, where is everything with all the construction and stuff that's going on right now? It's kind of hard to imagine of fair.
Even for myself, it is a challenge. Like take Wedgwood, I guess Extension, I guess is the best way to refer to that. Until they get the paving and the sidewalks in, ultimately, in my mind, I think it's gonna be a great food court. I'm pretty positive there's gonna be enough width there to accomplish what we want to accomplish in a food court. But as that finishes up with Wedgwood, the parking lot to the left of 50 forward will be the majority of our adult rides. That's on Wedgwood if you're coming into the fairgrounds on the right side. Our kiddie rides our children rides will be in the 54 parking lot. So they have agreed to allow us to use their parking lot. So that'll give us a kind of a encapsulated area there so that we can have that designated for the children. So it kind of separates the age groups. Now we will ultimately have some drawings, hopefully in the next 35 to 45 days, once we get probably some good aerials of some things, but I can get those.
Are there any other questions? Thank you
All
so
right.
much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Laura?
All right, we may need to split my part.
Yeah.
If, our guest of honor is stuck in traffic, so, but I did want to take a moment before she gets here to welcome our newest commissioner, Todd Hartley, who was confirmed 2 weeks ago. So welcome, Todd, if you want to just say hello and tell everyone who you are.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be part of this board. I'm a member of the neighborhood. I live about a half mile from the fairgrounds, so this area is very important to me. The work we're doing here is very important for the community and for Nashville as a whole, so I'm just glad to be part of this committee and to help make some good steering decisions for the fairgrounds.
We're delighted to have you. All right, you want to just do the rest of it a little bit? Okay, we're going to punt the rest of Laura's presentation, and let's move into old business, and we'll move to the Fairgrounds Improvement Project first.
All right. Good morning, board, staff, council. This morning I'll be getting us started off presenting on the budget. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, good. In your package, you should have the usual budget dashboards for the Fairgrounds improvement projects. I'll just start by giving the usual lead-in that the figures you'll be seeing this morning I'll be discussing are about 45 to 60 days in arrears of activity that's actually taking place. And then also just highlighting that last month, our meeting was a little bit later in the month when I presented. And so there's only really been one significant invoice payment since the last time that I presented the budget. That was related to K&J Associates, who is our contractor responsible for building the multipurpose and maintenance facility. With that being said, the only other item of note related to the line items on the budget for the fairgrounds is specifically an allocation adjustment. Some conversations have led to the desire to enclose the space that's currently open on that facility, something we were always contemplating even from early on in design. But I think now that we've got a grasp on that facility, what it looks like in that area, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with doing that. So we're in the process now of actually getting the paperwork for that change order to the contractor in place, but the budget you see reflects the desire to allocate the funds to do so. But with that being said, you'll see we're still inching ever closer and closer towards the finish line on the Fairgrounds improvement budget. We're currently hovering at about 97% there. And if there's no questions there, the Fair Park budget, the sheets that, if they're in color, they're in green, it's actually no activity since last month's presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I just have one question, sorry, and this is prompted from the community comment that we heard earlier. Out of the improvement budget, is there any way to look at doing a sort of an ADA sort of audit, or has one been done so that we can take a look at the necessary improvements that need to be done?
Let me just interject real quick. I also want to see if we can facilitate a tour of the grounds with Joy so that we can really see in real time what's going on.
Absolutely. We can do that. We are, to remind everybody of all the sequencing that's going on, obviously the infrastructure project, which is a sports authority project, is scheduled to be completed in August or late August, early September, and hopefully coordinate with the fair. We had meetings actually yesterday with ADA, representative for Public Works, or NDOT now. We've had meetings with representatives of Metro, other representatives of Metro and ADA. So the goal is all of the Wedgwood and Benton improvements will all be ADA accessible and facilitate those being able to move around the campus in a wheelchair and other disabilities you may have. bus stop that she mentioned, which I think is the one on Nolan's Hole.
There's two there. There are, yes, the number 52. There's no crosswalk if you're going inbound.
Right. So WeGo is going to be building a new bus stop at that point on both sides of the street. It is envisioned that part of that will be a new crosswalk, new signals. Those things are probably a year and a half, 2 years out. We're still trying to make sure that gets funded and coordinated with other efforts. WeGo has sent over some information to deal with easements, et cetera. Phase 2 of Fair Park will give us an ADA path that's outside of the traffic zones that will get us down to Wedgwood. And so that's all being contemplated. So all of that in being said is that at the end of the day, we hope the campus is going to be fully ADA accessible and will solve most of the issues that she's asked about. But it's going to take a couple of years.
And so then my follow-up is that, but in this couple of years, we're gonna want people to come to patronize this
Right.
place. So what are we looking at, in the interim to make sure that the safety of everyone that is visiting this property, is the number one concern within that couple of years, understanding that it's going to take a couple of years, but we're going to say don't buy a soccer ticket for 2 years until we finish this?
No. There's ADA parking for the soccer stadium has been identified, and it's up where the job trailers used to be. And the job trailers haven't looked today. They're going to go away in the next week or so. And then that area is going to be regraded for ADA parking for the games and for events at the stadium. In the interim, this facility is ADA accessible. I'm happy to do a tour where we can get into the specifics and make sure there may be some things we can tweak to make it better. And then, like I said, in August, when Wedgwood is completed and Benton is completed, then that's going to tie it all together a little better.
I have one more question. I'm sorry, Ron.
Sure.
In terms of an interim fix, things like striping sidewalks, or crosswalks rather, if we can, when we take the tour with Joy, come up with some interim stopgap measures, I think that would be helpful for everybody, because not everybody that is in a wheelchair takes a car here. And so I think we need to look at multimodality issues.
I totally agree, and we can get with WeGo and see if there's interim improvements we can make with their facilities, so we can try to accommodate it.
Can you move the microphone over
Absolutely.
so Joy can make her 2 quick comments?
I would just like to make 2 additions. Remember that federal codes are more strenuous than Nashville, city, county, state codes. So an ADA for Metro pass doesn't mean you're going to pass for federal codes, and you want to include that. And as you're doing it, you can't make the route long and circuitous for those like myself. It has to be into and through easier. And as far as the bus route, when you talk to WeGo, they have one that gets out, will let you off at Benton, but I can't take that route unless I go all the way to, it doesn't match up with 52, so that's another thing.
Okay, we'll address those issues when we take the tour, and maybe have a couple of representatives from ADA that can look at it with us.
Absolutely. We can invite, we'll facilitate a tour, probably be in a couple of weeks. That's okay? Try to get it done before the next board meeting.
That'll be great, thank you. And you'll let us know when?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll set it up.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments on this?
No, the only comment I will say is I appreciate you coming here today and letting us know, and thank you for that feedback. I think one of the things that I'll commit to is that during a game, I would like to be out there to see it, because it sounds like not only for those with accessibility needs, but also just pedestrians. I think it'll be important for us to see that as we see, and then the changing of Craighead and the direction of Craighead. So that I do commit to doing that during a game or during an event to make sure that we look at what accessibility issues we have on those streets.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
Do you, just to clarify that, Commissioner, you'd like to have a meeting during a soccer match? And
I don't know that we need to necessarily have a meeting. I think for those other commissioners who I would appreciate being there during an event so that we could see that firsthand as to what the challenges are.
okay,
Yeah.
well, I'll work with the team on trying to get that structured. And, and, you know, even if you comply with all the federal and state standards, there are still obstacles, and some of the things like signage and other things we can handle quickly once we understand what the issues are.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Okay, you want to finish this? Okay, yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Mixed use?
I don't think we have any representatives here. Mixed use is under construction. They've got their pad ready to go, and they're going to be getting their foundations in. If you look up there, there's now drills in place to deal with it. For the new commissioners, there are 3 mixed-use sites. They're going to be phased in by the developer of the mixed use. The first site is in between the stadium and the Speedway. That's the one that's going now. They're coordinating well with with Fairgrounds operations, particularly races. The second site, which is up there where the job trailers are, will go under construction in about 2.5 years. The first site will be done in middle of '24. And this may be applicable to some of the future discussions that we have, but it'll be finished in the middle of '24. Sometime around that time, they're going to start construction on the site that's around where the job trailers are. Then they will finally move to the site across from that. Each of these sites will have a parking garage. Some of that parking garage will be dedicated to using for some Fairgrounds events. So it's really going to be, if you got middle of '24, the second site will be finished in the middle of '26, and the third site will be finished in the middle of '28. So all of that's going to be phased in over a period of time, and just to let you know, you've got about 6 more years of construction on the site. So,
Stellar.
but it's going to be in more contained areas. Once we get this infrastructure project done, then we'll have good sidewalks. We're going to have it's going to be like other areas of the city that are getting filled in. We'll at least be able to walk around most of the time. So.
Anything else before we move on to Bristol Motor Speedway update? Okay, we're going to move on to Bristol Motor Speedway. And I can share that I received a message from the team, group, whatever you want to call them, and they are continuing to work with the administration and the consultant. And as of right now, they have nothing to report, nothing to share, other than they hope to be before the board soon. So we're going to move on to community impact Speedway policy discussion and consideration. And do we have a representative from NIAC here to share? Okay, I think Laura has a statement that she's going to share for us.
I do. I did receive an email. One of the NIAC members, Mr. Bergeron, former Fair Board member who continues to be a member of our Neighborhood Impact Advisory Committee, was unable to attend today. So he did send over a written statement. So if you don't have that, I do have copies, and I'm happy to pass that out to you.
Does everybody have a copy of it from the email earlier? And would you like one?
I have one.
Okay, I have one too. Okay, we're going to move on if there's nothing else regarding community impact, and we'll move to a discussion and consideration of the Fair Board meeting schedule moving forward. I'll entertain a motion so that we can have this on the floor for discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to change our meetings to Tuesdays, the second Tuesday of the month, instead of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the afternoon.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, now the floor is open for discussion. I'll share. The reason for this is I received several calls, questions, and concerns about the fact that an 8 o'clock in the morning meeting is inconvenient and almost near impossible for many members of the community that want to be here. And so when looking at the precedent that's set by other boards and commissions here in Metro, it made sense to take a look at an alternative solution that would offer the community the opportunity to come speak before us as Joy did this morning. And so I think it makes sense. I would support it. I would like to ask for an amendment, if possible, that would just enable us to stipulate that if we find any issues from the Metro side of things, from recording the meeting or from conflicting with something else that we're unaware of right now, that we would then be able to come back and revisit the time. Will you accept that amendment?
I accept it.
Thank you. Second to that?
Yeah, I'll second that amendment.
Okay. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we're going to move back to floor discussion. Is there any more floor discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, and so the motion passes. This will be effective the next meeting, and we'll publish that accordingly. Okay, we're going to go back to the Executive Director's Report, and I will now call on Director Womack. Good plan.
Good morning, Board. We have a very special day today. Mary Ann has been with us for 21 years, and she has announced her retirement. And we wanted to honor her today here in front of the Board and recognize her service to the community through her work at Metro and her work at the Fairgrounds and the Nashville Flea Market. We do have a reception afterwards planned, so we hope you stay and help us celebrate her. We've reached out to many of the vendors who were, I think, shocked and a bit saddened with the announcement that Mary Ann was going to retire. And of course, as a board and a staff, we want to recognize Mary Ann's service through a proclamation. A proclamation honoring Mary Ann Smith on her retirement. Whereas on June 16, 2001, Mrs. Mary Ann Smith was hired as a seasonal employee in the Nashville Flea Market office. And whereas on August 1st, 2011, Mary Ann became a full-time employee of the Nashville Flea Market. And whereas on July 1st, 2017, Mary Ann was promoted to manager of the Nashville Flea Market. And whereas Mary Ann devoted her time and energy to build and strengthen relationships with the Nashville Flea Market dealers. And whereas due to her dedication, the Nashville Flea Market will thrive for decades to come. And whereas in its 53rd year of existence, the Nashville Flea Market continues to be recognized as a nationally ranked market. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County Board of Fair Commissioners. The Board of Fair Commissioners hereby goes on record as thanking and honoring Mrs. Mary Ann Smith for her 21 years of service at the Fairgrounds Nashville and the Nashville Flea Market. And the Board of Fair Commissioners hereby recognizes Saturday, May 28th, 2022, as Mrs. Mary Ann Smith Day, as a day to celebrate Mary Ann together with colleagues, Nashville Flea Market dealers, and customers. With much respect and thanks, the Board of Fair Commissioners. I want to take a little time as well because staff reached out to several of our, I think Marianne's dear friends, and these are dealers, longtime flea market vendors who wanted to share some personal well wishes and reflections on Marianne's service, and I'd like just your indulgence to read a few of them to her and to you. From the Mincy family. We have been vendors at the Nashville Flea Market for nearly 20 years. Marianne Smith has become a great friend during those years. She's always been so helpful and friendly. We appreciate her so very much and will miss seeing her sweet face at the flea market. We love her. From Miss Jane Smith, tell me it isn't true. You can't retire. You always have a smile no matter what we throw your way. You will be so very missed, Marianne. You are part of what makes this place work. I'm sure you are ready for a change, but you will be remembered forever. Best wishes in your new life. Love you. And from Sam Allen, couldn't have asked for a better person to run the flea market. She will be greatly missed. And this is just a few of the many, many messages, heartfelt well wishes that Marianne has received. And I know myself and staff who are here to help celebrate her. We're going to miss her and wish her well, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Marianne, I've never seen you with a bigger smile on your face.
Thank you all so much. This was a big, what should I say? It's hard to do, to leave all of my friends. And I hope everything will go well with everybody. I better go while I can talk. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Again, I hope everybody will stay for the reception for Marianne. We're going to move to new business now, and we're going to look at a consideration of a recommendation to extend the contract with GHP to serve as program manager for Fairgrounds capital projects. And I'll turn it over to Director Womack.
Thank you. So GHP has been working with us, and their subcontractors have been working with us for years now to help us manage our extensive capital projects. They have served as program managers and owners' representatives and therapists at times when through about all these projects. So in recognition of the fact that their contract right now with the Sports Authority is expiring at the end of the year, and knowing that we have two big projects on deck currently that are funded, one being Fair Park Phase 2, the other one being the second part of the infrastructure. So it's about $30 million worth of capital that remains that we haven't started yet. It is imperative, in my opinion, that the continuity, the experience on campus will serve us well. It's the best decision for the fairgrounds to look at extending GHP's contract to have that role for us. This does extend to Mr. Ed Henley's company, who has provided us amazing financial analysis and just has done a fantastic job with due diligence of all the money that we've expended, working with our contractors and managing, again, multi-million-dollar contracts, as well as Ms. Roxanne Bethune, who manages the DBE portion of our projects to make sure that we are hitting the goals that Metro and the contractors have agreed to as part of the projects. So there is not a defined way at this point. I want to work with procurement on how to identify which mechanism is most appropriate to either extend the contract. If we use the Sports Authority contract that is currently in place now for our projects, that would require going to council to extend, because contracts in excess of 60 months have to go in front of council, so that is an option. And the other thing that we need to review with procurement is GHP does have 2 other contracts with metro agencies, and so we would need to also evaluate whether or not one or both of those would be appropriate mechanisms for this as well. So I would recommend that an endorsement by this board for me to work with procurement to determine the best mechanism by which to extend GHP's contract to work with us in our next 2 capital projects, and how to do that.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to offer Director Womack an endorsement for the ability to go to procurement to identify the best way to get this done?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Questions? Todd?
Director Womack, being new, this may be a bad question, but I'll go ahead and ask it. Is there an incremental budget impact, or what's the budget sort of ramifications of extending this contract? Not saying it's a reason not to do it, just want to understand.
I actually see more of a budget impact if we were to switch companies. Time is money, and bringing a new firm up to speed on all of the projects here and how every piece of this fits together. Because as we have been dealing with over the last year, it's not just the fairgrounds. Fair Park also has a big Metro Parks component with it, and greenways. We've got a mixed-use development, which is an entirely different program manager and system. And then, of course, the stadium team and potentially any Speedway updates. So there's a lot of partners. Sports Authority is involved. So there's those contracts that are present on site. So having someone new come in and learn all of those puzzle pieces when we've already got the puzzle almost completed so I think about it almost in the other sense, that I think this is the most financially appropriate decision as well.
Just one follow-up. So it sounds like this project management expense is a budgeted expense, and we're just choosing which vendor to fulfill that budgeted expense.
Correct. Every
Okay.
project that we have, we've got a design component, a project management component, a construction management component. So those are broken down, and that is something that Mr. Henley and his team also tracks.
Any more questions? Comments? Discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to the vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and so the motion passes. Is there any more new business? Seeing none on the agenda, I will move for the meeting to be adjourned. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And you notice I didn't ask for discussion on that. Meeting is adjourned. Come have cake.